All right, calling the Recreation Joint Advisory Committee meeting to order. Looks like we have one visitor today. If you'd like to step up to the mic and let us know why you're here and what your name is. And you have 3 minutes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bob Gramatka. My only claim to fame is I used to run the bridge tournament in Bella Vista when it was here, and unfortunately it moved, and that's too bad because my heart has always been in Bella Vista, and I love Bella Vista. But anyway, I'm here informally. I still am associated with the bridge tournament advisory capacity. I also am a member of the Duplicate Bridge Club in Bella Vista, and we are looking for a home, hopefully a return to what formerly was known as Reardon. I don't want to be put on the agenda because I'm just here to listen, and I wasn't sure if the director of our club was going to be here or not today, and so I had a little free time, and I thought I'd just sit in. I'm kind of hard of hearing, so I don't know if I can sit over there, if that's okay, a little bit closer, but if that's okay. And thank you for asking me to give a brief talk.
Welcome, thank you for being here. All right, moving on to amenity reports. We'll start with Metfield and Robert.
All right. Well, I had the chance to visit Metfield several times. The clubhouse and fitness center looks great as usual. There were several members in the facility using the equipment. Around the block in the playground, it was in use by 2 families with younger children. All seemed to be happy, which I'll address later. The pavilions weren't being used at the time, as well as the pickleball courts, but they look great. The pool was about to open, and Alexia was the staff member I spoke with. She mentioned that several members commented on the restrooms. I'm sure we're all aware of the facelift they need. But I'll also add that, you know, anytime you have a pool and restroom combined, that's going to be used maybe 5 times more than any other restroom in any other facility. So they go through a lot of wear and tear, but in my opinion, they look great. So they may be dated, but they look great. Areas for review. At the pool, I noticed the base of the water slide is rusting out in several places. I don't know if this ever has been addressed before, but and this is just a suggestion. It's not to tell anybody how to do anything, but if it were me, I would try to mitigate that rust before it compromises the structure. And at this point, should be pretty easy to do, I would think. It might involve some welding and some grinding, but I've included pictures in my report. I also noticed, of course, that one of the shade, actually, I guess 2 shade canopies had been missing at one time, but one was currently missing. And Alexa mentioned that it was damaged during the windstorm. Member interactions. I spoke with families at the playground, and they informed me that they moved here several years ago primarily because of recreation, primarily for the pools, the playgrounds, the trails, and the lakes. They love it here. Discovered they're from my hometown of Fort Collins. They use this area because they love the outdoors. To them, Northwest Arkansas, specifically Bella Vista, represents recreation outdoors, and they love that. I spoke with a few members using the fitness equipment, and they mentioned that the ceiling fan, one of the ceiling fans, which I think I've addressed before, isn't working. I think it's the center fan. But both mentioned they enjoyed the facility. That's all I have.
Thanks, Robert. We have a couple people out today, so I'll be covering Deborah's and JP's. So to start with Deborah and Branchwood, overall condition on Sunday around 4 p.m. The rain had just ended, so it was very hot and humid. The rec center was closed, too hot to walk the trail. 2 groups were playing pickleball, playground was in use, and there were some walkers and a disc golf player. The disc golf club, 59 Flyers, played a mini on the course from 8 to 11. Everything looks to be in good condition. One gentleman approached the fitness center while I was there, unaware it was closed. Areas for review, none. Member interactions. I did not speak with any buddy during my visit. However, POA member Judy posted on social media earlier in the day, "I love that the Branchwood Trail Bridge has water flowing beneath it in mid-August. Just now walked it in the misting rain and thoroughly enjoyed it. Everything is so lush and green." Overall, or additional observations, would consider cleaning up the maintenance shed at Disc Golf second tee. It's not the best image for our community, and Deborah included a picture of that. Moving on to Loch Lomond. Overall conditions Sunday afternoon, again, extremely hot and humid. There were 4 cars in the parking lot. Areas for review, spider webs and ladies and men's restrooms becoming unsightly. Weeds require cutting back along the aquaculture ponds. If the flag cannot be replaced out of respect, I would recommend removing it. It is very tattered. Member interactions, none. And additional observations, none. All right, moving on to Blowing Springs, which is my amenity. Overall condition of the park looked great as usual. It's always really manicured. The grounds were clean, the trails were cleared. We went to Jazz last night, we saw Brian. There was a really great crowd. Sounds like the back to school event was a big success. There were still supplies being donated last night. Areas for review, there's still some trees that are close to the road as you drive back to the Gear Garden. I think even if you just drive the road, you'll know which ones they are because they'll hit the side of the car. Member interactions, I spoke with Lisa and Jean at the front office when I pulled through, and they said everything's been going really, really well. Same with Wendy back at the Gear Garden. I chatted with the family that lives close, and they say they love bringing their kids in the evenings to play before bedtime. Additional observations, the new tables look really, really great and are much more comfortable to sit on than the concrete, so thank you. Moving on to Brian.
If I could just hitch a wagon to your wagon train there, Kathleen, something that was brought up by a POA member as it pertains to Blowing Springs in the women's restroom. It sounds like there's a frequency to run out of toilet tissue in there. Maybe we could look at putting in the multi-roll dispensers to keep that from happening. I think they're all singles is the word that I got. Haven't been in there, don't know, but that's the word on the street. Anyway, moving on to my amenities. So Tyree Park, as usual, the lawn was cut, the trash was being emptied, the bathrooms were relatively clean, well stocked, functional. I did note that one of the bumper strips on the dock, on the south side of the dock, has come loose. There's about 4 feet of it hanging in the water, just needs to be reattached. And I had mentioned in my June report on Tyree that the sign on the south side of the boat ramp, whatever some poor soul did to that sign to completely twist it and wrap it around whatever they wrapped it around. Anyway, the sign is now gone. However, the remnants are at ground level, jagged, rusty, sharp metal, so bury it, grind it or something, but something probably should be done with it. Otherwise, Tyree was great. I was out there Saturday morning to both of my amenities, actually in between rain showers. It was nice, quiet, fresh, just lovely to walk around the parks Saturday morning. Granton, there was nothing new at Granton as usual. There again, the grass was cut, the trash was being emptied, that outhouse was in relatively clean condition and stocked. I did not have a chance to talk to anyone at either amenity. There were fishing boats out or trailers in the parking lot, so people were at least using the ramps. Yeah, other than that, the mutt mitts were stocked. Everything was in pretty good shape at Granton as well. So that's all I have.
All right, moving on to Lake Avalon. I'll be covering that for JP. So the beach and surrounding park look fantastic. The ablutions were like new and spotless. Families were making use of the zip lines, sitting under the pavilion eating ice cream. There was a fair number of folks on the beach and in the water for a late afternoon in the middle of the week. I spoke with Lizzie at the kiosk. Charlie had just left for the day. Lizzie was super friendly and introduced herself, asking if she could do anything for me. The lifeguard was in his spot. I did not bother him. Last month I noted the large number of algae or water plants along the bank, and these are pretty much gone, so thank you for cleaning that up. It makes the water look much more inviting. Areas for review: the dock and the lake came loose from one or more of its anchors and was spinning around. I think this should be fixed. It looked like it could be dangerous. Member interactions, I spoke with some teenagers who were sitting at the pavilion. They love the beach and the real feeling that summer brings, not ready to go back to school. Love the convenience of living close by, and they can cycle and meet up with friends. Additional observations, none, and then he included some pictures of the loose stock and the clean water. All right, moving on to Kingsdale with Richard.
I've visited the tennis facility several times over the last month. The overall condition of the facility is pretty good. Did notice on court 3, it's kind of the first court right by the clubhouse there. It has, put the mic on, please. Great, thank you. I did notice on court 3 at the tennis facility that there was a long crack forming, kind of lengthwise. I know that one's not one that's set for, you know, resurfacing and that, but it's something that probably maybe needs to be looked at before too long. Looks like you're already aware of that. The pools are, from what I can tell, in really good condition. I went in the restrooms in there and they looked really good. The day I was there was the day that they were getting ready for the night out for law enforcement and that. And the pool's really closed except for a special event that looked like it was just some exercise in the adult pool there. But it didn't look like, I didn't have anything for areas for review on the pools. They all looked like they were really good shape as far as I could tell.
And sorry, Richard,
no.
and they were actually open.
Oh, they
it
were?
was like a weird, yeah, we had a water class going on in the adult pool, but it was
Yeah.
like a weird, slowed down right before they ended.
Yeah, they had a sign out, I thought, that said closed for special event or something.
When was this?
It was the
time?
day that they were having the law enforcement night
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
I can't remember it would have been on a Tuesday.
Oh, so it might have been after 7.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, from 7 to 8, we had the water class. Yeah, I was posted there. Okay, because I think I saw you there, Kathleen. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I walked over to the mini golf course. It looked like it was in good condition, and all those clubs I mentioned before had been culled out, you know, the 7-irons and 5-irons and drivers and all that. They'd been taken out. So that was good. And I noticed that the mats at the tee boxes had been installed, at least on the ones that had a downhill lie, you know, where the kid, I noticed that one time the kids were having trouble setting their balls on there and they were sort of rolling, and so they were hitting, moving. But, so that's been all repaired, so that's good. I didn't see any other really areas for review on that at this time. The playground looked like it was in good shape. There's a bunch of kids playing on it. It gets a lot of use, I think, doesn't it? You know, like I said, that was the day that the Bella Vista Police were preparing for their annual event, so there were a lot of them there setting up little exhibits and whatnot. Bathrooms were all clean. I did notice that the basketball net was torn and kind of hanging, you know, from all the, I'm sure, I don't know, there's people jumping, hanging on it, or whether it's storms we've had or whatever, but probably needs to be replaced. I don't know, we talked last time, I guess, a little bit about that horseshoe pit and that it's not really being used. I'm wondering, just throwing out there, if we should take those pegs out, those steel pegs. Just, I mean, there's not a lot of traffic back there, but, you know, I'm always thinking of liability and someone could trip and fall on one, or, so, I don't know, pretty remote chance, but if they're not being used, it might be good just to pull them, I think. And that's about all I had. I had one other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, was that in the pickleball courts at Branchwood. We talked about that, maybe moving that gate sometime. And I was talking to some of the regulars around that, saying, well, we're bringing it up, trying to see if we can get it moved. And a couple of them threw out the idea, well, we could probably pay for it ourselves. You know, if we get 20 people, they'd probably kick in $50 a piece, and we could get $1,000 to it. I don't know if that's been enough, or if that's been explored at the cost of what that would cost. But I just throw that out there, that they were talking, like, you know, if budget was the real issue, we might be able to overcome that just by, you know, voluntary contributions by people that play there all the time. I mean, they might be willing to do something like that. And I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Richard. All right, moving on to Lake Ann and London Park with Mary.
So as always, my parks always look wonderful. We have had a ton of heavy rain. And so because of that, when I was at London Park, the road there, it's got like really bad washout, which we've talked about. I'm sure you've been down there since then. I don't think at this point there's anything we can really do about that because I don't know when the nighttime storms are going to actually really stop, but it's pretty craggy to get in there at this point in time. It also looks like maybe somebody cut down a tree and put it in the lake and then it like washed up on the shoreline right there. So that probably needs to be removed, just something to kind of be aware. It's like by the dock, between the dock and the cleaning station right there. As far as Lake Ann Park goes, everything looked really, really super good there. The only thing that I saw was there's still that slow leak on the fish cleaning station, and then the water spigot next to the pavilion was not working. So it's just something to kind of be aware of. And then my main area that I had of concern was actually on the waterfall side of Lake Ann. And I don't even know if it's an us situation or if it's a trail situation, but the bridge that goes across the waterfall, there's actually a board there that's broken. So I think that that's like a safety hazard, more or less. I don't know whether it's a you thing or somebody else thing, but I think it's worth mentioning. And then I'm sure it's because of the rain. It looks like it's time to kind of mow the dam because it looks kind of crazy out there right now.
Sure.
I think it's on your list.
Yeah, they're doing it as weather allows.
That's what I was
They have
thinking.
to wait for dry conditions or they'll slip off of it.
That's kind of what I figured.
Yeah.
When we saw it, we were like, well, that looks crazy, but I'm like, well, it's also rained like a ton. So everything that I had at my parks looked really good, minus the stuff that was caused from the weather, other than the board on the bridge. So, all right, thank you.
Mary, just so I'm clear, are we talking the big bridge?
Yeah, the big bridge that goes across there. That's why I was like, I don't know if it's an us thing or if it's a trails thing.
It's us because it is trails.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about broken, like
big crack. It looked like it was like
or
cracked
loose?
and like somebody had went up and like pulled it and ripped it. So I have a picture. I'll show you.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was gonna include it. I put that on my report and then I forgot to because it was really bad. But I have a picture of it so that way I could show you. But I actually didn't notice it. My husband did, and he was like, "Somebody's gonna get hurt." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll mention that."
Thanks, Mary. All right, we've got Matt on Zoom who's going to chat gun ranges.
All right, so I visited at the 1st of August. There was fewer members than the last time I went, but obviously the weather was a lot warmer, so that kind of keeps you inside. So really, as far as the overall condition, everything was still in good shape that I've mentioned before, so I'll keep that short. The areas for review, I just noticed the 2 square target frames on the gun range were down, but not sure if they're needed since there's other targets and most people use the movable ones. For member interactions, I spoke with one member and he uses that the range quite often, and he said that he likes that everyone knows the rules and how to safely use the range, which makes for a pleasant shooting experience. For additional observations, I went out last night on my way out of town for work, headed to the bypass, so I just swung by to see how the area looked after all this rain we've been having. And really, for the most part, everything looked good in and around the area, so that's what I've got for the gun range.
Thanks, Matt. Moving on to Tanier Creek and Trails and Greenway with Chris.
All right, so Tanier Creek looks great for the most part. The general conditions are good. Parking lot is always full. There's always people there. I caught a couple things that I'll mention here that are worth keeping an eye on. The main paved trail that leads back to the waterfall has some trees with dead limbs or some trees that, you know, are starting to die. So that's something that we should keep an eye on. And I'm wondering, should we ask the volunteers or myself when I walk through there to maybe put some tape around the trees, some mylar tape or something, kind of mark them for easier ID?
I'll check that out.
Okay, great. It's not urgent. It's just something that, yeah, it's starting to catch some attention. Another thing that might be worth taking a look at is one of the small guardrails on the suspension, or guard cables on the suspension bridge. It's a little bit loose. So it doesn't seem like an immediate safety concern or anything like that. But if there's like a periodic maintenance on that bridge, that would be one of those things. I'm sure that would be addressed. And an observation about that area is that, well, all the creeks and water areas in this area, I mean, maybe it's due to the population increase, but the amount of people recreating in the creeks and stuff to cool off seems like it's getting more and more popular, even at Tanyard Creek, even this afternoon, where it's not all that hot. Folks are just in there enjoying them creeks to cool off in. That's just an observation. And I think that's it for the Tanyard Creek area. Like I said, everything is in good condition, nothing really to worry about. Same with the trails and the greenway. Everything is going good there. Probably a thing to note would be a lot of trees coming down on the trails recently, but those are all taken care of right away. You know, there's a method for that that's reported in the Facebook groups, and the POA staff takes care of that, and all is good there. So trails and greenway in good shape. And that's it.
Thanks, Chris. All right, that concludes the amenity reports for this month. Moving on to current business, we have 2024 capital budget discussion. So a couple weeks, Deborah sent out a list of suggestions for 2024 capital expenses. And if you scroll down below the agenda, you'll see that list right there in orange. A couple edits I want to call out. First being the Metfield pickleball shade structure. That should be $11,000 instead of $110,000. And then also the boat motor. The boat motor at Loch Lomond Marina should be $12,000 instead of $120,000. Deborah's going to send this list out to us after this meeting, and we are going to use Chris's golf scores to vote and rank these based on order of importance. Before she does that, is there any last questions from the committee? Anything that we'd like to discuss before then? Opening it up.
I have one thing, Kathleen, something I'm curious about, something that I am a little bit familiar with, because I noticed on here they were talking about repavement of the basketball court at Metfield. And I assume that's the court that's by the pickleball courts, is that correct?
Yes, I would say so.
And I was looking at that pavement, and it looks like that the paint is fairly fresh on that, and I was just looking at the overall surface and trying to understand why that's a project. Someone certainly educate me. I'm not seeing that that's really coming apart in any way, but I know that like roads, you don't wait until they completely crumble before you do something about it. So why is it on the list, I guess would be my question.
So maybe I'm wrong, but that was resurfaced 5 years ago. That's about the average life. But to your point, Ryan, it's very fair. Branchwood is in much worse condition, and I put things on the list. Sometimes they roll over to the next year, and Branchwood is really in need. Sometimes you get economy of scale while they're out. You say you want to do both of them because they're both actually weirdly. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think Branchwood was done 1 year after Metfield, and yet it's not held up as well. But it's also got more cracking. It's not just the surface. So yes, that falls lower to my priority list as well.
Okay.
Good question.
Thank you.
I'd make a comment here. You know, there's a lot of good projects on the list. We never have enough money to do everything. And my personal feeling is that maintaining existing facilities is amongst the most important things to do before you go in and start ranking new projects. So that's just an opinion for how I'll go about making some ranking decisions for myself. Is the existing facilities get a little bit more weight, more importance for me.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone else?
I actually have a question, Kathleen, for the group. Appreciate that as Deborah and y'all have worked on this and added some things to the list. Most things are pretty self-explanatory, but the Metfield fitness equipment, and some of it is just terminology. Was that you by any chance? Okay. Vertical leg rack, what are you talking about?
Vertical leg rack, that's the hanging leg rack when you do your leg raises. Call it a vertical leg raise.
Okay.
It's not
So-
in the can.
Yeah, you're just talking about leg extension, seated?
Raising your legs.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's that. I'm sorry, I should be on mic.
And,
The
abdominal decline bench, yep.
decline bench, you know, and I think those two, this is totally up to you, but I think those two options would outweigh an actual machine. Number one, because I think they're more effective, but number two, cost-wise.
Yeah, yeah. The abdominal machine, as you know, but just for everybody else that's on here, you know, we do have them in some of our facilities, but that's the one where you're generally sitting upright and you're doing this. Most people would be better served to do a crunch laying down, even if it's on a bench. It's a really easy way to cheat. That said, I have purchased one for BVRC, so we won't always have each same equipment at every facility, because I had budget and they came out with a newer version which is less likely to be cheated on. But to your point, I don't have as much space left at Metfield anymore too, so I could maybe fit a bench in
That'd be
and
good,
save some
just a
money.
bench, yeah.
So, okay, that's helpful, thank you.
And I would like to add to that, I'm also the one that submitted the air scrubbers, and that is by several members have brought to me over the year, and especially during COVID, probably more so during COVID than lately, that they wondered whether we had proper or an aggressive air scrubbing or air exchange system. And I'm clueless on that. I don't know if we do or not. I do know that it fogs up during some of the busier, some of that's condensation. We have difference of air temperature between outside and inside. I really don't know. So that's kind of an uninformed area for me. And I just drew up suggestions of knowing what air scrubbers cost. Threw those in there. So.
Thank you. I can't speak to that exactly. We have Scott Garrison as our main HVAC person, and we certainly let him know. He's aware, because some members do bring these things up, and again, we don't always know it's because they think we should have different, or because, to your point, people have gotten more concerned during recent times or whatever. It's interesting because before COVID, I'd not heard that before. Had you, Jessica?
No, I really didn't hear it. I've heard it lately. I've heard it once lately, yeah, and that's since got out there. But and it's when you say air scrub, am I understanding right? We're talking about humidifier, but bigger, more powerful. I just wonder what.
I imagine they include humidity. There's several types. One is a water wash. There's another that's a UV style air scrubber. Then there's the HEPA, maybe a 5-part HEPA. Those are, you know, those are central units. I'm sorry. There's several types. One is UV, another is HEPA. There's a water wash system. You know, price goes up as the units become more sophisticated. We might be a little overkill there, but these are central units. So the more expensive line you see, that's a central unit. The less expensive, I think that's 900. Those are portable units, similar to your current, what are those probably dehumidifiers that you have in there.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
So what we'll do, and we'll appreciate Robert for bringing that up, we'll loop back with Scott, who's, you know, very on top of things, and just let him know that some of the concerns that we're bringing up, and to see if he has any recommendations. Generally, the way it works, when we have an expert like that, they will bring to us when it's time for us to go into our budget, because it does hit our individual budgets, and they'll bring to us like, okay, you should be budgeting for this, you should be budgeting for that, because we are due for a replacement, so we'll double check on that. Thank you.
All right, thanks, everybody. Be on the lookout for Deborah's email to rank these suggestions, and I would assume this probably week or next. All right, moving on to new business. Tom.
Kind of went blank for a second there. Wanted to take a couple minutes and do our annual committee training. Already been able to get this done with lakes and with golf, and now it's your turn. So I'm not quite certain why it's doing that, showing up better on that. There we go. All right, so the overall purpose, and much of this information is drawn from our governing documents, which are available on the POA's website. It is the duty of each committee to discuss, analyze, and propose solutions for problems and opportunities within its area of concern, and to make recommendations to management or the board. And that's actually quoted straight from policy 1.04. The structure, the Joint Advisory Committee reports directly to the Board of Directors. Okay, so that's your next, that's your boss, if you want to call it that. That's who you're going to be working. That's who you're working for. Liaisons. Now we have one liaison here. We have at least two. I think we have three total liaisons. And what their job is to do is to facilitate communication between the board and the joint advisory committees. So that's what their job is. And move on. All right, management representative. So for each committee, we have at least one management representative. For here, we have Joan and Jessica, and then Rick and John is hidden right now. I don't know where John went. And then I'll show up on a pretty consistent basis also. So we do that for all the committees to make sure that the management representation is there. We already covered this, but the Joint Advisory Committee are expected to submit their meeting minutes and provide a brief report to the Board of Directors on a monthly basis. And that's what happens on a monthly basis, is at the board meeting it's reported. So also your minutes are included in the board packet. So the board is aware of what's going on a consistent basis. Advisory. So this is one thing that we always want to make sure that the committees are aware of. You are a member of a joint advisory committee, and sometimes members of the committee skip over that middle word, advisory. The board of directors and management put a tremendous amount of weight to the recommendations made by the committees. With that being said, the recommendations from the committees are advisory. To quote specifically out of policy 1.04, the committees has no authority on their own. So it's very important that we listen to what you have to say, but we also need to make sure that we understand where the authority lies. Recordings of meetings. We video each of these, and that's why we keep on asking everybody to hit their microphone. Meetings are available on our website. They go back over 5 years. Minutes are available, all that information. So, and we have members join us, and so it's just important that these meetings are recorded and made available, unedited. Open meetings. Anybody can attend these meetings as long as they're a member. Now, a subcommittee, if the Joint Advisory Committee wants to work on a specific project, they can assign a subcommittee, and those subcommittees are not necessarily open to the public. So the Lakes Committee is researching an issue right now, and they've assigned several committee members to be in a subcommittee that will then report back. That subcommittee can be a closed meeting, but the general meeting must be open. Okay? So it's something that you can consider for the future if you ever want a subcommittee to research a topic on behalf of the general committee, you can do that. Community input. We always want to make sure that we allow community input. That's part of your job, is letting your neighbors and your friends and your other club members, or maybe you go to church or what have you, talk to them. Let them know that you're on the Recreation Joint Advisory Committee. Solicit their input. What do they have to say? Be the eyes and ears of the community. Bring that information back so we can get that. Open forum. So we always have an open forum, and Bob was kind enough to share his thoughts earlier. They're limited to 3 minutes. And what's important on there is not a debate. It's not a debate forum where the person comes up and it goes back and forth and so forth. They should go up, they should state their opinion. Let's say we have 2 or 3 people, they'll state their opinion, and at the end, we'll respond. Because what we don't want to do is have that person speak for 3 minutes, then they ask a question, and then we respond, and it goes back and forth, and then they end up being up there 5, 6, 7 minutes. The reason why we want to have that hard 3 minutes and why Jessica tracks it is because we don't want to be in the position where maybe they bring up something really congratulatory or complimentary of the committee and we give them 10 minutes and then someone comes up and then criticizes and then we're cutting them off at 3. It's going to make the committee look really bad. So consistency is the key. And if a person organizes their thoughts in advance, they can share their information in 3 minutes, no problem at all. I think Bob had his thoughts organized and got done probably in about 1.5 minutes, and that's outstanding. Meeting handouts. Just so you're aware that any information that is handed out during a meeting is open to the community. So we make agendas available. This really is more pertinent to the board of directors than this committee, but anything that's handed out, you can't go, well, no, that was handed out at the meeting, but you're not welcome, member, to see this information. No, if it's in this meeting, then it's open to anybody. Okay. Areas of concern. This issue comes up every once in a while, but just make sure that you're working in your specific area of concern. So I'm going to pick on the golf committee because they're an easy target. They were talking about golf at one of the golf courses, and then they started talking about, well, the bar service thing. We need to talk about the bar service next. And I'm like, nope, that's not your area of concern. Your area of concern is the golf course. That's where you focus in on. If you as a general member want to share information at the board meeting, you're welcome to do so, but we need to make sure that we have those lines of communication those areas of concern. It gets a little bit complicated sometimes when you have a park that comes up right next to a lake. Is it a rec issue? Is it a lakes issue? But we work through those very well, but we just want to make sure that you keep consistent with your specific area of concern. Okay. Uniquely compiled information. Every once in a while, a committee member will come forward and say, look, I want you to put together this detailed report and get us all this data and so forth. We've had requests where we went to accounting and said, how long would it take you to get this information together? And they've gone, oh, it's going to take about 4 hours worth of staff work to get this together. And then we'll go, we're not going to do that because, maybe if the entire committee wanted that or the board thought it was a good idea, we would do that. But we just need to be very careful. I encourage people to go onto our website. We have a tremendous amount of financial information, stats information. It's all made available, And we do that on a consistent basis, and in some cases, we have programs that run to generate that information automatically. So this policy allows us to go, look, you know, that's specific information that you're asking us to spend staff hours on. We're not going to be able to provide that information to you. And many thanks. Thank you for willing to volunteer to benefit our community, and we really appreciate it. So it's a little bit of a whirlwind tour. Any questions? Well, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Tom. All right, moving on to board liaison. Director Hagan, any thoughts or comments you'd like to share?
Just one thing to follow up with what Tom said, and that is, he mentioned about being the eyes and ears for the board in terms of recreational amenities. When my wife and I moved here, we were followed by 3 other households in our family because they came and visited, and they were so impressed with the amenities and how things were kept. And now we have 4 families here. They all have extended families who have visited. And when you've taken the time to look at the amenities and then report out what the needs are, if they're looking good, those things really do matter, because I can attest from the 4 families and the extended families, they talk about how nice things are kept, how beautiful the amenities are. The recreational amenities are certainly attracting people. So I also want to just say thank you for the work that you do, and it counts. We appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, moving on to staff reports. Tom.
Real quick, since I've already spoken a lot, at the last board meeting, hopefully everybody's aware, there were 7 trails that were proposed. The board considered those and approved all of those. We're now, the POA's general counsel and the city's attorney are still working on the agreement, and I've been told that they hope to start working on these trails in October, November timeframe. Chris, I know you were there and spoke in support of the trail, so appreciate that. So exciting things heading our way. Next thing, just some quick stats in year-to-date as of the end of last month, year-to-year comparison. Compared to 2021, at that time we had 12,100 activity cards issued. As of this year, we're at 15,400. It's a 27% increase, which is tremendous. The majority of that increase is in dependents. So lots and lots of kids using the pools, using the beach and so forth. So pretty exciting, that amount of growth over a 2-year period, and we're up 12% over prior year. So that was it.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you have a map of where the new trails are going to be, the one that you guys proposed?
Sure.
That's actually really exciting.
So if you go to last board meeting, this entire presentation was given, and I don't think Jan or Jessica, who have sat through this twice, they might start throwing stuff at me if I give it again. But here, I'll just go through these real quick. So here are the general locations. I think it's going to make a little bit more sense if I go. So this is at Kingsdale. So here is where Papa Mike's is located, and so forth. And the issue here is we have a red trail. Red means existing, yellow is proposed. So we have a red trail here and a red trail up here, but it's a 1.75 mile loop to get from this area to the other area. And so they're proposing this yellow trail, which will
Is that the little sugar trail up there?
This is a little sugar system, yes.
Yep, that's what I thought.
And so it's a 1/4 mile trail just to bridge that gap. What
That's
they're finding
smart. Yeah, that
is
makes sense.
more. They want more and more loops, shorter loops.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Connectors.
that
totally
one.
makes sense.
The next one is Pinion Creek. And so this is Lake Ann. You can see the tip of Lake Ann, the easternmost port of Lake Ann. This existing green trail is already there.
Yep.
And they're proposing this yellow trail. So if you combine this yellow trail and then that green trail, you'll now have a nice beginner loop on the east
That's
side
really nice,
that you
yeah.
can loop. So beginner looping trails is of great interest
Yep.
to people. The next one, still on the far east side, let me jump to the first map. So it's way over here. Sorry, it's over here, sorry. No, it's this one, sorry. It's number 4. So it's way on the east side, and here's number 4 hole, and there's Commonwealth. We already have an existing red trail, but it's pretty challenging. And then this yellow trail will be added, and it will be beginner.
I love how you guys are putting this in.
And right here is a ravine, and they're gonna put in a really scenic bridge there. And I'm talking to them, trying to see if they'd be willing to put in a dog park in this area, because we've received a lot of requests for dog parks on the east side, but we can't find any good places. Because you gotta remember, where you put it in a dog park, you gotta be pretty far from a home, because dogs bark. So we're talking about that, and they're gonna get back to me where they're gonna go for that. The next one, so this is the tip of Lake Avalon. There's the beach, and the green trail is already in place. And then they're talking about adding this yellow trail, which would, the yellow trail plus the green trail would make another relatively easy loop. This is another connector. So here's the Wentworth neighborhood. This is Bluebird Park, and this would allow you to get down to Bluebird Park. You see a lot of switchbacks. That means it's going to be very steep. This is the second neighborhood in this area. This Tavistock recently came to about a year ago, and we
Yeah, I've
added
been on
that
that trail down there. It's really nice.
So this is another neat, this is where the neighborhood's coming together.
And they can just come down and drop in there.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
really
cool. This one is in, here's Little Sugar Creek, here's Republic, over here is Arkmo, and Missouri is up here. So this would have outstanding views of Little Sugar, and then connect all the way over here. This would be an intermediate style trail, and it would create another short loop. So you can see here is another loop, so you can imagine going all the way around. So that's going to be some really cool views in this area.
Yeah, that looks really well thought out.
And here's some of the views from by the stream. I jumped over. Operator. This is in the southwest portion. Here's Chelsea, and there's that parking area right there. You usually don't see a lot of cars in that one, and this would be a great hiking area. This is a very underdeveloped portion of Bella Vista. If you look closely at some of these, how am I doing? I was trying to zoom in and failed completely. But if you look at some of these roads, you can see there is no road.
Yeah.
It's been platted for roads, but there's no roads in this area. Very sparsely homes in this area, and this actually may spur some growth in that area, which would be kind of neat. And then the last one was rejected. And that's going to be the total cost of all the trails is projected at $2.5 million. The other interesting thing, I'm going to zip to the very beginning, and I thought this would be interesting information.
Oh, those are going to be so beautiful.
That is the total number of trail uses in '22. Just under 300,000, and only about 50% of our trails have trail counters on them. So that number is very underrepresented. It's probably more like 500,000. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, you made a comment about, we also got an update, but
I'm
here's
so excited
the
about
Bluebird. The decking is already in place. There's fencing around it to keep people away, but pretty cool things heading our way.
That was great. Thank you for going through that.
Sure. And the presentation, once again, is available on our website if you wanted to
I'll
get
show my
the
husband.
full version.
So on those statistics and everything, I seen that the Trailblazers is actually reporting to the city usage statistics. Would that be something handy to drip down into this committee via, if I can get a hold from the Trailblazers to just report it in through our side, through the POA, just like golf stats?
That'd be great.
I get it. I mean, I get those stats, so.
They're nice charts and everything, yeah, so.
Yeah.
I think that would be cool to have public visibility on that through this committee here, just like a lot of other stats in the POA are through various committees and board meetings and stuff.
It's great how they use that information, and they use that information to propose new trails, and that's really good. Is not only have the Trailblazers put in the trails, but they keep on coming back to make them better and fix them and improve it. So that's really good, I think. And it's not just a one done gift. It's they keep on making it better.
Yeah, it also shows that, you know, it's such a highly valued recreational amenity with that usage, and yet it's still being well preserved and cared for by the users, because most of the users on trails are great natural conservationists. You know, they care about Bella Vista and want to keep it clean, and a lot of them pick up wrappers or cups if it ends up on the trail. So high use and high grade care, I guess, is the message.
The other piece of information that was shared during the meeting is that we have 385 trail adopters that are volunteers that go out and help maintain the trail, and that's very important. And having community commitment to the trails is very important.
Exactly. Like Tanyard Creek has volunteers too, so that volunteer program works good. Of course, like I mentioned, the heavy lifting with chainsaws and stuff still falls to the POA, but the volunteer program is really good. And I can see a lot of those folks, and they're very enthusiastic about what they do.
Yeah.
I did have a question.
Do you have your speaker on, your mic on?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. I just can't see from this angle.
There was an article in the Weekly Vista that dealt with the board approving the proposed trails, and there was some ambiguity in it with regard to who was paying for the $2.5 million, because it said the board has approved these proposed trails for a cost of $2.5 million. So I know there was some talk, street chatter on our street, who's paying for this? And I wasn't really sure, I guess.
So the article that came out 2 weeks ago, I didn't feel covered the information sufficiently. I feel during the presentation, I think we were very clear. It says Trailblazers, but it was implied, but it wasn't very obvious. So I called the editor the same day I read the article, and they put in a follow-up article that I think explained it much better. It came out last week, which was the following week after the article. I think that helped. I spoke with the editor last week, or the week that the revised article came out, and they heard it. They got a lot of comments from property owners about the lack of clarity in the article. So I may have been the first person to give them a call, but they got a lot more, and the POA got quite a number of comments, and I just said, look, I put in a correction, what I really can't do much more than that. And so, but what's also kind of fun is it October 8th? We'll let you guys be the first to be aware, as on October 8th, we are going to have a Trailblazers appreciation event at the Gear Garden, and we're going to donate, I can't remember how much it is, but per beer that we sell, we're going to make a donation, and we're planning on having a group photo taken where everybody will attend, and we'll do a nice photo, and we plan on framing it and then giving it to the Trailblazers, really just to thank them for all the work that they've done. So we came up with that idea last week, and we're going to start promoting it. We're going to start adding, meat to the bone, because it was just an idea. Now it's actually forming up and so forth. So October 8th, put it on your calendar. I know you'll be there, Chris.
I could imagine how massively popular that event will be.
We're gonna encourage people to leave their car at home and to ride there, because we know that it's going to be really popular, and we won't have enough parking. So if we can get a lot of people riding their bike there, that would be really cool.
You get ahead of the game.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
If I could just add some clarity, Richard, not just to the article, but to date, since we've started putting trails in Bella Vista, we, the POA, have not paid a cent for either the design of the trails or the implementation. The only money the POA and the city have really put in is the upkeep, and we are approaching 20 million-ish.
25.
25 million that has been granted to us. And then another example is, and I've shared this with this committee before, but over the years, we've also been gifted labor by the Trailblazers, not just the volunteers. The volunteers help tremendously with the smaller tasks, albeit very important tasks. They now have their own crew, and they have helped us in times of storms or whatever. So the trade-off, or the amount of trails and the usership that Tom shared versus our skin in the game is very reasonable.
Yeah, well, that was my understanding, but I was asked a question just in our neighborhood, and I didn't know the answer for sure, but I thought that's what it was. But I said, well, I'll inquire, but my understanding is that, probably they're not paying anything for this. But they said, well, the article says they're paying $2.5 million. What, and the people are upset. How have we got $2.5 million? I said, well.
And then just one other example, the treehouse that Tom shared. That is a gift also, $120,000 gift that is on our park.
And wasn't that park donated by them too?
Yeah.
No, it's ours. It's formerly part
Oh
of
no,
the.
it's our park, but all the
That's
trails,
what I'm saying,
the
the
pavilions,
and
all that stuff.
The
Yeah.
trail.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, the bark is the POA property formerly part
Well,
of the.
yeah, but I'm saying the stuff that's there.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really super cool.
So yeah, it's unfortunate that they got that. I don't want to criticize them. If you look at the article from the author's perspective, it is implied, but it's not as clear as I would want it. And when I read it, I sent them an email within 5 minutes of reading the article, because this is going to be a problem.
Thanks, Tom. All very exciting. Okay, moving on to Rick.
All right, just an example of how committee assignments kind of overlap. Just a reminder that the Lake Windsor Drawdown will happen this fall, October 16th of 2023 to February 19th of 2024. Not only, it impacts a lot of different recreation, be it fishing or boating or that kind of thing. And the 3-week earlier date was to accommodate the fix on Chelsea Road where the culvert needed to be replaced. We are sending out a letter to lakefront residents. Hopefully we'll get that out late this week or next week. Our Lake Ranger contacts for the month of July were 6,117. 422 people removed who couldn't produce verification that they were residents. 554 contacts by boat, 97.25 hours on the water in July. That's down a little bit from June this year, but and also from July of 2022. Some of that can be attributed to the extremely hot weather. We are still continuing to get a lot of downed trees at Tanier Creek and on the various lakes. Guys are out today actually removing some additional trees. Nothing major, but we're also evaluating some trees for removal either this fall or in the next budget year, depending on how bad they are, especially at Tyree. A lot of those trees in that open grassy area are needing to be removed. They're starting to be a hazard. And that's about all I have for my area. John takes care of the gun range, and he has a proposal to bring to the committee.
But first I'll talk about just the last month. So gun range attendance, I'm happy to say, is up year over year for the month of July. We were up 28%, which I think that's 6 out of the 7 months that we've had so far. We've kind of blown last year's attendance out of the water, which was already pretty good. So last month we were up 28%, and there wasn't a whole lot going on the last month or the last week of the month because it was so hot. So it was pretty busy those first 3 weeks. Classes did slow down considerably around the end of July, and that's kind of held that way through August. So if you know anyone that needs a gun class, we've got plenty of spots open. Matt, on the target frames, they are still down. I've got the frames, and I think we might end up doing something new with the steel targets over in that area, but you kind of said it already. Unless you're shooting at 25 yards on the pistol range, you don't normally use those frames, so that's the reason they've been down for a little while. And then also, what you alluded to, that big storm that we had, I believe it was Saturday night into Sunday morning. The morning range officer, he spent quite a lot of time cleaning up over there to make everything presentable, so appreciate him for doing all that hard work that morning to get everything up and running. And then, let's see, early last week I was approached by the Arkansas High School Rodeo Association. They wanted to have us host a couple of events for them for the 23-24 season. It's a really small group. We're talking about high school and junior high aged kids. They would like to use both the rifle range and the trap range. The dates would be on a Sunday. The trap range is normally closed on a Sunday, so there wouldn't be any member interruptions over at the trap range. Rifle range is, of course, open on a Sunday, but I think we can kind of limit the amount of member interruption over at the rifle range. So if we did do these events, what we would propose to do is give that group half of the rifle range. It's going to be a small group anyway. I think we could really accommodate them with just half the range. And I think it would go really quick because we're probably talking about 15 or so shooters over at the rifle range. Let's see, is there anything else I'm missing? So the first date they proposed or are asking for is October 1st, so that's coming up pretty quick. And then the next one would be a mid-April date, and it's kind of to be determined at this point. Let's see if I'm missing anything. The group is insured, and they provide their own range officers if they were allowed to do this. And then these events are normally held in central Arkansas, but the organizer wanted to move to the north for a year, so the kids in our area wouldn't have to drive and just kind of share the burden a little bit. And so that's the information that I have on the event.
So that event would be for this October 1st?
This October 1st, yep.
Yeah, that's
Real quick. They just started the school year, and I think that's the reason why they're just kind of getting together their game plan for the year.
So normally we, since these are non-members, so normally in January is when we come to the committees and ask if we can use POA amenities for non-members. Typically, we limit those types of events to charitable events or kid-oriented events, and this qualifies as kid. You know, the trap and skeet is closed, as John indicated. With regards to the rifle range, it would be for half of the rifle range for a few hours. But we always want to be cognizant that this would be a disruption, at least a partial disruption to our membership. So we would need approval from the committee in order to go back to the group and allow them to do this. Well, we would want, if anybody's got questions.
Yeah, we find a discussion and then.
Can I comment?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think we should absolutely do it. I think that it's for kids, it's for a good reason, and I just don't think a couple hours is gonna make that big of a difference. So to me, it's a no-brainer. It's better for the community outreach, so we should absolutely do it.
I think I'd be okay with it too. It's utilizing a facility that's closed, the trap, and only half of the facility that's being used. So we could still accommodate our membership with minimal disruption and take care of the high schoolers. So I like the idea. I think I'd be in favor of it.
And keep it, and it's only quarter, because it's not the pistol side, it's just the rifle side, and it's half of the rifle side.
And it will also be first thing in the morning when our attendance is lower.
I agree. Thanks, John. All right, moving on to Joan and Jessica.
Can you take a vote?
I'd
make a motion that we approve the high school gun outing.
I'll second
Okay, so
that.
we are voting now. Okay.
So we got a motion on the floor for us now, and now we can call for a vote.
All right, call for a vote. Those who vote yes, raise your hand. Looks like it's a yes.
Matt? Is there an indication from Matt?
Oh. Matt, are you a yes?
Yes.
All right. Approved.
Thank you guys. I'll let them know.
I'm gonna go pretty quickly. Next week, BVRC tour on the 22nd. That's a Tuesday at 3 p.m. We've been doing the third Tuesday, but we pushed it a week because we had some things going on that we wanted to avoid. We're also working on prices and policies. That's pretty much done, and we'll be releasing that to the members in September. That's for things like one-time rentals as well as our ongoing groups. So pretty much everything will have a fee of some sort, but they're very equitable and very fair. Of course, with the activity card, you will continue to get into the fitness center for free. Everything else, there'll be an additional fee. Jessica's wrapping up at least half of the aquatics outdoor season. We closed Metfield Pool. Yesterday was its final day. The beach final weekday was Friday. The beach will be open through Labor Day weekends only. And then we keep Kingsdale Pool, the centrally located pool, open through mid-September, which is weeks longer than other community pools. We work really hard to serve our members to do that. A lot of people ask, well, why can't you keep Metfield open? It's simply a matter of staffing. We don't have the staff. We move our existing staff to Kingsdale. It's also the facility that serves the most diverse part of our membership, meaning we have the adult pool, so we're serving our adults. We have the family pool at Kingsdale, so we're serving families. And then certainly we have the waiting pool. So it's centrally located, we can staff it, and also it's very expensive to keep the pools open for the amount of people that use it during the weekdays. So keeping one pool open makes sense. We still gotta put all the chemicals in it, but I can tell you from past years, it's simply not as busy as when school's in session. We're also getting ready for our October events. Flea in the Park is the first weekend in October. It's Friday and Saturday, the 6th and 7th. And then closely right behind that will be the Not So Haunted Mini Golf, which is a pretty cool event that we decorate mini golf and light it at night for the 2 weeks leading into the Halloween. And the new playground at Kingsdale Park, which is by the Kingsdale Pool, has been removed, the old and the new. We are having a meeting on Wednesday and looking at the final layout, so the installation will be coming very soon. People wanted to know maybe why we took it out before the new one came in. We gotta do grading work. People don't realize there's lots of footers underneath there. It's quite a bit of work, and we saved quite a bit of money because our wonderful MAC team does a lot of that work. Also, I didn't want to take the playground out too soon. We were in a hurry up and wait situation with our vendor because they didn't know when the shipment was going to come in, the old supply chain situation, but it's going to be exciting. And the campground continues to be busy all summer, including, as mentioned by Chris, the trails in the park and through the park with the greenway, etc. So that's going to be it for me today.
That concludes the staff reports. We're over on time. Any other thoughts, comments, questions before we adjourn? All right, well, next month's meeting will be September 11th, 4 o'clock in the boardroom. Have a great month. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.